The biggest TV show in history has finally answered its most burning questions. Questions we've had for nearly a decade. The Duffer Brothers warned us that the Stranger Things series finale wasn't going to be like anything we'd anticipated.
Everything we have ever assumed about the Upside Down has been dead wrong.
And they were right. Not only did we finally learn the dark truth about the Upside Down, the role of the Mind Flayer, and Vecna's twisted backstory, but we learned that this story is so much bigger than we once thought. By the end of this video, you'll learn the answers to Stranger Things' biggest Upside Down mysteries and find out that the series finale isn't really the end of the Duffer Brothers' biggest project yet. It could very well be just the beginning.
I believe.
We hadn't seen the Mind Flayer in its physical, giant, spidery form since the end of Season 3, but the truth is, it's always been the answer. The Mind Flayer has always been around, even before Vecna. What is Henry's plan? Who controls Henry? Who connects the Demogorgons, Will, Vecna, and his victims? All of these questions lead to one answer: the Mind Flayer. At the end of Season 4, we learned that Henry encountered the Mind Flayer in the Upside Down and became one with it, allowing him to extend his reach to other beings, possessing them. Up until now, it was unclear whether or not the Mind Flayer was sentient before encountering Henry. After all, the spider-like creature we saw in Season 3 isn't technically the Mind Flayer's true form. It is merely the dark particles taking shape according to Henry's imagination and his fascination with spiders. Let's not forget the Mind Flayer has been mentioned a few times since Season 3. The Duffer Brothers didn't forget about it, but with Henry Creel and Vecna taking center stage as the primary antagonist of both Seasons 4 and 5, the Mind Flayer's name was certainly pushed to the back of our minds. However, the name has returned to haunt us once more, most recently in Season 5, Episode 7, when Dustin indicates that the Mind Flayer is in fact in the abyss, or that's where they assume it is, at least. And they're right. The Mind Flayer is far from gone. In fact, as you'll find out later in this video, it's the centerpiece of our Upside Down puzzle. The Mind Flayer resides in the abyss, on the other side of the Upside Down, which serves as a gateway between our world and the Mind Flayers. It hadn't been hiding away since Season 3. It's actually been building an empire, waiting to strike at the proper moment. We learned in the last few episodes of Season 5 that Elle, along with the rest of her siblings, actually received their powers from Henry. Their powers are not their own. Sure, they can use them for good, but it also means that a part of Henry is with them forever. As long as they're alive, as long as Henry's blood runs through their veins, Elle and her sister Number 8 pose a threat to humanity because it is with their blood that more Henrys can be created. It is for this reason that Number 8 tells Elle in Season 5, Episode 7, that in order to really put a stop to everything, they too will have to die. So, where did Henry get his powers? Were they something he was born with, or perhaps he was experimented on and these powers were granted as a result? No. Remember how I mentioned that we weren't sure if the Mind Flayer was sentient or not? Well, we finally got our answer. It was. The Mind Flayer was most likely as old as the universe itself, waiting to find the perfect vessel to help bring it to the world above. That vessel was Henry, and it all started with a briefcase. Season 5, Episode 6 was one of my favorite episodes of the new season. I love a good escape sequence, and Holly finding the entrance to the underground tunnel was not at all what I expected to happen. But even after Holly and Max managed to escape Vecna's mind, one burning question remains, one that changed everything we knew about Henry Creel. What was in the man's briefcase? A young Henry, while seemingly exploring the tunnel, stumbles upon a wounded man clutching a briefcase. Worried that Henry was sent by them to retrieve it, the man shoots him in the hand, attempting to kill him. In response, Henry grabs a nearby rock and smashes the man's head in, almost instinctively. Just as he begins to peer into the discarded briefcase, Max grabs Holly and pulls her away through the cave's opening in order to escape. Fans of the stage show Stranger Things: The First Shadow knew from the beginning what gave Henry Creel his powers and what was inside of the man's briefcase: upside-down particles, i.e. Mind Flayer particles. The man wasn't just any random scientist either. He was actually a Soviet who had stolen the particles from Brenner's group and had intended to bring the briefcase back to Russia. Brenner's group is most likely who the scientist was referring to when he accused Henry of being one of them. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Why are we talking about the fate of a secondary character in the same conversation as the show's primary villain? But be honest, you're curious what happened to him too, aren't you? Mrs. Wheeler was nearly killed by a Demogorgon, but still got a chance to shine. But what about Ted Wheeler? Is he alive? Is he in a coma? We didn't get an answer until the series finale. Yes, Ted Wheeler is alive and well, as seen at the kids' graduation ceremony. How he managed to survive the Demogorgon attack, I guess we'll never know. But they aren't called the Walk 'em Down Wheelers for nothing. Ever since season 4, one thing has seemed obvious to me. Will must die. As a Harry Potter fan, I always looked at Will as some sort of Horcrux. Henry Creel, Vecna, whatever you want to call him, has essentially split himself into a bunch of little pieces. One, yet separate. Will, being Vecna's first victim, the one closest to his mind, is now one of those pieces. And to ensure that Vecna is really gone for good, Will must die in the end. This theory was proven to be false, sort of. Will and the rest of Vecna's victims survived after his death. However, 11, 8, and their siblings were forever tied to Henry. They had his blood coursing through their veins and believed that they had to die in order to stop him, for good. Whether that was true, making Elle's sacrifice justified, or if Hopper was right about Elle living a normal, happy life, may remain unknown. But one thing is for certain. They carried a piece of Henry wherever they went, and they still might if Elle is in fact still alive. In Season 5, Episode 7, Will gives his big speech, the one that everyone's been talking about. He finally accepts every part of himself, allowing him to muster the strength needed to take down Vecna once and for all. However, fans pointed out a few discrepancies in this monologue, discrepancies that may have revealed that Vecna had fully possessed him at this point without his friends even knowing it. For example, Will said that he and his friends liked biking to Melvald's to get milkshakes, a store his mom worked at and most definitely did not sell milkshakes. He also said that he and his friends loved getting lost in the woods. One of Will's most traumatic memories is in the woods. To use this as a core memory in order to fight off Vecna is certainly strange, and some theorize that these memories weren't Will's at all. They were Henry's, implying that he and Will had officially become one. However, these hidden details were not addressed in the series finale. Vecna did say that he planned to use Will as a spy one last time in the previous episode, so this theory may very well be true, but like I said, it was not officially confirmed. Back in the first half of Season 5, Lucas said, "There are no coincidences." Will Byers was taken by Vecna to the Upside Down, and that day has remained significant even into Season 5. But why? Why was Will taken, and why does Vecna begin capturing his other victims on the same day? Perhaps he is a creature of habit, or it could be much more. The stage play The First Shadow is centered around the events of the 1959 school play Oklahoma, which is referenced in Season 5 on a poster that Max picks up. I bet you can guess the date of the show's opening. November 6. On 3 separate occasions, November 6 is referenced: the vanishing of Will Byers, the abduction of the other vessels, and Joyce's production of Oklahoma. However, based on the series finale, the best answer may very well be that Vecna is simply a creature of habit. There is no other explanation given as to why November 6 is such a significant day in Hawkins, but it's possible that the Duffer Brothers are saving this for a future project. The truth is, Stranger Things would have ended a lot sooner if Henry was able to enter the cave earlier on. Throughout Season 5, the cave hidden in Henry's memories serves as a safe haven for Max, Holly, and the rest of Vecna's victims. That is, until the series finale, when Henry finally does what we once thought was impossible. He takes a step into the cave. Haunted by the memories we first witnessed in episode 6, where he killed the man with the briefcase, his trek deeper inside is clearly a painful one, but nevertheless, he persists. The one sanctuary from Vecna's reach is destroyed with a single footstep. But the question remains, why is this memory so traumatic? Well, it turns out that all of our theories were wrong. This wasn't necessarily a traumatic memory. It was the one the Mind Flayer didn't want Henry to remember. None of this, the pain, the destruction, the plan to merge worlds, it was never Henry. It was the Mind Flayer. Henry was just a kid, like Will, when he found the piece of the Upside Down, the red particles inside of that briefcase. The Mind Flayer used Henry to bring it to the right side up. Henry is merely a vessel. In an interview with ScreenRant, Jamie Campbell Bowers stated that he truly felt sorry for Henry, and now we see why. Of course, even when shown the truth about this, Henry still believes that he chose this path. We are one. However, while Henry certainly was the victim in this scenario, I don't think the Mind Flayer chose Henry just because he happened to open the briefcase. Think about it. Henry's first instinct in response to being shot in the hand was to kill the scientist in quite a brutal way, might I add. Henry was both weak in mind and violent in spirit, the perfect vessel. Luckily, we got an answer to almost every single question that remained for the series finale. However, the Duffer Brothers have left a few plot points open for discussion and open for future use. Will 11 ever return to Hawkins? Will she see her friends again? It's hard to believe that she has truly left them behind for good, and I, for one, would love to see her reunite with Hopper, Mike, and the rest of the gang in the future. Furthermore, Henry is dead, but his blood still flows through 11's veins. Does she still possess her powers? And what about Will? The Mind Flayer might be gone, but do remnants of its abilities still remain? What happened to the Abyss and the Mind Flayer? Are they truly gone for good? The Upside Down certainly is, but just because the bridge is gone doesn't mean the two worlds can't exist separately. Finally, the biggest question of the series finale that remains up in the air. Are Holly and her friends the next generation? Could they be the stars of the Duffer Brothers' next project? What questions were you glad to finally have answered in the series finale, and what questions still remain? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more theories just like these. Thanks again for watching ScreenRant, and I'll see you in the next one.